One. Good evening. This is the Finance Committee meeting. It is October 23rd, 5:29 p.m. We will be recording the video and audio of the meeting. We'll call to order at 5:29. Public comment? Hearing none. Approval of minutes.
Well, let me just add, I discovered 2 typos in there that I fixed. I had the wrong date. I put Tuesday instead of Monday, which I fixed, and there was like spent versus spend or something. Nothing major at all.
Okay.
Figured I'd catch that before someone else did.
I read them and I didn't even realize it.
Okay. I'm good with them. I don't know if there was other comments. I'll entertain a motion.
Okay,
There's nothing else.
I move to accept the minutes of October 10th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Approved.
All right, department requests? None. PRFs? None. And PCFs, so we will take the assistant assessor PCF first, because we have a representative here from the board. This is for Martha, is it? Leamy. Okay. So this is a change in salary to be effective 10/30/17. Retroactive following sign off by Board of Selectmen. So it would be, if it was signed by them after that date, it'd be retroactive to the end of the month. The old hourly rate was $19.97 for 25 hours per week for 52.2 weeks, with an annual salary of $26,061.
She has been actually working 30 hours since Mike was out. Mike's not coming back, so she's actually for three months not had a PCF to reflect the hours, but has been approved to work 30 hours. So she's been working the 30 hours.
So the new hourly rate would be $22 for 30 hours per week for 52.2 weeks per year annually, $34,452. Comments?
I apologize, what was the previous rate one?
$19.97 for 25.
Roughly $5 an hour.
Yeah.
No, 5
No,
hours.
$2.
$2.03. Okay.
Taking on additional responsibilities of principal assessor due to departure while BOA reviews office needs. It has been signed by the accountant with the note, will charge extra hours and extra money for principal assessor work to principal assessor's account. So the added work would get charged to the principal assessor's account. It's also been signed by the department head and the PQB chair. I'll pass this around for review.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, well, we didn't realize when we approved her to work the 30 hours in Mike's absence that it didn't, because we didn't do a PCF, it didn't make her eligible for her personal days and other benefits that went along with those hours. So
Okay.
we probably should have done a 30 hours a few months ago, but
So understand, so Mike's not coming back, so
There is no principal assessor.
there is no principal
will there
assessor.
be one going forward?
We're, again, as it says, we're evaluating our needs. We're a totally new board. We don't know that a town of Southampton requires that. If we're going to have a principal assessor, then our feeling is we don't need a consultant.
Okay.
So if we're not going to have a principal assessor, then we'll have to work with a consultant to pick up some of those
Who's been
requirements.
working all along anyway. You're talking
The
about
consultant
yes.
has?
Roy Bishop. Well,
consultant.
he's
Even when we
working.
had the principal assessor.
Yeah, even when there was the previous board had a principal assessor making
Right.
$25 an hour, an assistant
Yeah.
assessor, and a consultant.
Right.
So,
But I know there wasn't much in the budget for the consulting this coming year. My
Right, it
concern,
got
of course,
cut off,
is
yeah.
do we have enough money to cover it? I mean,
yes, it's
clearly with
it's
Mike out,
budgeted
we
covered,
do.
yes. Well, now that Mike's short-term disability has expired at the end of this month.
Okay,
then we have his full salary. Up to this point, we only had 75, he was,
25%.
we had 25.
So then,
yeah.
obviously, the board understands if you were to bring someone on in that principal assessor role, you have less hours or something to
We
make
have
sure
to
you.
determine if,
So are we paying Mike's salary still? Is that what it was heard?
no, we're paying 75% of Mike's salary through the end of
Disability.
October for disability.
And then it's done?
Then it's done.
Okay.
So has he,
He is officially resigned.
okay, so there's
Yes.
a letter, that's what I was gonna ask. Okay.
Yeah, because to your point, Heather, if we backfill that position, obviously, we're gonna be over because we've given our
Right.
raise to the assistant.
But obviously, the board knows what they're.
Yeah, we understand the budget that we have
Right.
to operate within.
Exactly.
So, that's a PCF to change the assistant assessor's salary
And
And
hours.
hours.
and hours.
So that's actually, what's the net, 12,000 a year, somewhere in that neighborhood?
That's 7.
Oh, it's right there on the sheet.
Went from 26 to 34.
Yep,
So, yeah.
So, my question to you,
on the front part, the sheet, Heather.
is the Board of Assessors okay not having that listed as a temporary? Because of the fact
All
that
right.
you're setting it up as a permanent change at the moment. If you list it as temporary, it allows you to either hire a principal assessor and then Martha would go back to an assistant role. Or if Martha was qualified and applied for the principal assessor, it allows Martha to, and it would be a change at that point, so you'd be able to adjust the rate. I'm just thinking if you hire a principal assessor and they come in, there's nothing paperwork-wise that says this is a temporary. So I didn't know if.
But a
you'd
temporary
entertain-
is 12 weeks, it really doesn't fit into the temporary, with the notation that it's, as we review the needs of the office, it certainly doesn't state that it's gonna be, it's full-time regular at this point at this hours. We will have to work within our budget moving forward. So, I mean, that's our responsibility as the managing body to make sure that we do that.
Do you need to make a change to the principal assessors because if you're taking the money from there to change that, or you just
Vicky's gonna do
Yeah,
it.
she'll charge to that line.
charge that? But you still have that position that's available at that rate, right?
Right, well, Mike,
I don't know how that
It's not
works.
posted or anything at this point,
Yeah.
so I don't, again, we're evaluating whether, how do we really address this? I mean, Martha's covering a good portion of what was already being done at a lower rate for a number of months, and, you know,
Good job.
what she doesn't do, I'm not sure Mike was doing, I think Roy Bishop was already doing, so do we need a title of principal assessor in town when we have our
Right.
needs being met?
and
So-
that was definitely a finance committee question. We had it every year. We have a principal, we have an assistant, and then we
And so-
We have a
pay
consultant.
a consultant when some towns it's managed where there's a principal or maybe an assistant, but the Board of Assessors helps with those larger assessments. We're basically contracting out complicated assessments, which really made no sense because we're paying to certify members of the Board of Assessors and to, educate them and to get them to the level of being able to help and do that, but we're gonna pay for someone else.
And the board is not there yet.
Right, yeah,
So we have a
understandably,
greater need for consultant and,
right.
So if we went consultant and junior assistant, would we save money in the budget?
that's where we are right now.
That's where we are today, yeah.
Perfect.
Prior to this, we were at
That would be my
3 positions
recommendation.
well, it's up to the board to make the recommendation.
understand.
You guys, agree that the finance is there,
As a
that's it.
citizen of the town, I'm just weighing my
understand.
2 cents, let's save money where we can if we're getting the
Yeah.
job done.
Would have been a great discussion 2 years ago as well, when this occurred, so.
Mhm.
And I know got badgered around up here
Yep.
quite a lot.
I
So
wasn't
with
here.
that being said, would you envision you're gonna be over on the consultant fees for this fiscal year then? If you continue down this path of an assistant and relying on a consultant for the,
I mean, we have some money, we're trying to be very thrifty as how we invest his time.
and could you pull from that principal assessor wage line if need be? or
At
is
the
it-
end of, the last 2 months of the year, we
Transfer.
can probably do a transfer at that time. We'll see. I mean, there are some things that we're planning on him doing the key things that the office isn't qualified to do,
Yep.
to try to see what we can, I mean, Martha's was an assistant assessor in another town for a number of years, so she comes with qualifications and we'll continue to educate her. So, I can't say that we won't need to transfer towards the end of the year, but it's our, fiscal responsibility to try not to over.
What is the budget, do you know, for the consultant?
I forget it. I think it was 35, and it's done. I
That way
have to
you
look. It was quite a lot.
Yeah, I'm looking now.
35,000.
No,
35,
I thought it was even brought down maybe two.
Wow.
And it's it's a
How
really
much consulting?
No.
no. It was dropped
in there for-
substantially. So
For
it was more than half. I think.
$1,500.
Yeah, and I think it was 3,000
And
before.
the maps, yeah.
So in a
Half
year
of
where
what it
we
was.
don't have a qualified board and we don't have a principal assessor, and we
Don't have
have
money
had
for
of
a
our,
consultant.
yes, so I mean, we're not only fiscally responsible to the town, but to make sure that we do what we have to do from an assessing perspective as well.
So from July till now, we're paying 75% of
Yes.
my salary,
Mhm.
which was $40,000 a year. And Martha's annual salary, based on this $19 rate, was 26 and change.
Yeah.
So
Savings
you'll be
money.
saving,
27,000.
substantial, so if you
About
need
20.
the.
So
if you need
I
one
think
of
at the end of the
consultants,
year,
you'll
we
have a lot of
can,
money.
right,
I like it.
we just don't have it to do at this point until we're able to transfer it.
Right, so it was 22 minus the 8, so you'd be at 11, 12,000.
Yeah.
You could shift some of that over.
I make a motion we approve
Okay.
PCF as presented.
Is there a second? Any more discussion? All right, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
And the only reason we requested to have it effective October 30th is because the board of selectmen are not meeting until the 7th, so just
No, it's good. It picks up the immediate.
3 weeks from the original.
Immediate coverage.
The second?
after Principal leaves.
This, yeah, we got a
I
lot
think
going
it's
on.
the
The second, the
Long
6th, the
meetings.
9th,
Right,
The next official meeting, I thought was like the 5th and the 7th
ninth
or
is the
something,
interview.
so. Okay, great, thank you very much.
all right.
So how's it feel? You're on the other side?
Jeez, you got the car.
Really?
I was never that hard. Thank you, have a good night.
Good night. Good night. Next, we have a PCF for the treasurer, collector, clerk. This is for Christy Facto. This is a new hire, replacing Christy Fennessy. New hourly rate of $15.92 for 30 hours per week, 52 weeks per year annually, at $24,930, 72 cents.
And the person she replaced was earning,
I don't know, like, there's no information and there's no comments. So Vicky signed, but this account will be short at year end approximately $273 as paid out vacation to previous employee. So because we had to pay out the previous employee, the account will be short. It has been signed by the accountant, Donna Whiteley, and the PTA chair.
So we're just gonna grab $270 from thin air, or take it from someone. I know it's minor, but at the end of the day, how can we approve a raise when the numbers aren't there?
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't,
It's not right.
I would say
Back
that
all
would,
together.
if I could say something, I would say that would qualify for a reserve fund request, simply because it was unanticipated. It was a vacation time, the
Right.
money was in there for the salary. But now that they had to pay out the vacation for the other individuals, what bumped it over.
Yeah, but they should know. I mean, at the
Well,
end of the
then
day,
you'd have to
you
count on that for
but
every
they don't
position
though.
Yeah.
throughout the
Have to
organization.
account for that,
You
yeah.
have to account for that.
But
You don't.
you do though, don't you?
No.
Not when they leave, you pay out
Because-
next year's, yeah.
You budget the account for,
Understand, but you still would have had a week without the person. Yeah, you gotta carry it forward. I understand,
it's, yeah.
but.
I think we've used reserve funds in the past to cover a similar situation. I think it was with the police chief,
It was unanticipated, it wasn't.
because when they retire, and this is a personnel issue that I don't know if the PQB is working on, but when someone just chooses to up and retire July 2nd, they get paid all their vacation. So,
But
I think
then
we
the
did
person,
use it in the
but then the
past.
person that takes it over doesn't get as much vacation. So.
But they're not earning
Still, there's
vacation at
overlap.
the same
Yeah.
rate.
So then, I mean,
Now, this person will be working with Donna, is that who it is?
Yeah, so she already is. She's a
Yeah.
temporary, she was a temporary part-time hire, or emergency, part-time.
Now, is
so
it,
this position was never there before?
No, it was. Christy Fennessy just resigned or left.
But how long ago did we add this position?
As long as I can remember,
Been here
they've
as long
had two
as we
people.
is,
Yeah, there's 2 clerks in the treasurer collector's office. Just the collector and then the 2 clerks.
isn't this like the third or fourth time that this position's been filled?
There has been
Some turnover there.
some turnover in
There
that
is.
position.
Do we know why?
I do not know why. Could be money related. I
I
think
was
the
just gonna
previous,
venture to say-
I don't think the most recent one, but I think the previous one who left was money related, went to go work somewhere else for more money. But other than that, I don't really know any of the backstory.
I was just curious, because I just realized that it's like the third or fourth time that that position's been filled in, I think, 2 years.
We'll have to check with the personnel board, but they really, if there are exit interviews, no one is never made aware of the results of those interviews. We don't know who conducts them, whether the department head, whether the town administrator. But, it's a good question. If there's a
But you
high
would think
turnover
it-
position, you
right.
need to understand.
You think a red flag would go
Because it
up?
costs money every time.
Right.
Right.
Did,
Do we do exit interviews?
That's what I'm,
more than likely no.
Good idea, though.
And we don't know what the current person or the person that resigned was making.
Not offhand. It's usually in the,
What was the, how much?
it's not in that paperwork. It would have been in the previous
300.
PCF. The emergency paperwork would have had that information. I just don't know. Do you happen to have that?
in my packet, I
Now, what
missed.
is the
I don't-
overlap
I'll-
with
I don't have my
when you hire
packet.
new, do they get, how long before they get their benefits?
Vacation, yeah.
Vacation, is there a
When
grace?
does it kick in?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
is it a year or is it an instant? I'm just curious.
It's,
Should be earned by every hour if it's gonna be.
It's not though. I don't think ours is like that.
At least
like
6
that.
months, I would
No,
know.
it's not like, I mean,
Because for every day you earn an hour worth of vacation, that's how I.
no, I don't think ours is like that. I don't,
But it's odd to be paying out that
they have to,
quick.
there's a period of time, they can accrue it, but there's a
yeah,
period of time.
they just haven't changed the
before
policy.
they're
They
allowed
know it's an
to
issue
take
because it's
it.
happened
Pass
numerous times.
probation,
I mean, the last
90 days.
individual
I was gonna
started,
say, is it a 90-day
I think
probation
it-
period?
It's 90 days.
probably wasn't here a year and then left right after the first of the fiscal year, so you get paid out the
It's a,
vacation days.
it's, to me, it's a very,
Forgiving.
yes.
Policy.
If we weren't on camera.
Yeah, a little too generous.
Yeah, it's a policy that should be changed, I'll say it. I mean, that's not how it is where I work.
Yeah,
I
this is
mean,
how I work.
exactly. I mean, we pay out vacation, but you gotta be there for a while to earn it in the time, and it's a ramp period. Basically 5 years to get your full vacation.
That's why I thought disability was also.
It's a little.
I thought insuring it would be much better, but.
Yeah.
Won't go
But I really personally like to know that we're at least maintaining, since we're over in the budget, same salary. And if there is a true salary problem, and that's what the turnover is, then we plan for it next year. And if
Right.
it's truly that, then maybe we take the 2 juniors here and put them together and make a real
position.
position
A
out of it.
full-time
And
position.
A
pay,
full-time position
pay
that you can
someone.
pay better.
pay better and attract better talent.
I think, I mean, that's a,
These are essentially full-time
Yeah, they're 30 hours
positions.
a week.
They're
That's-
each 30 hours.
Or, so now you pay someone 50 grand that can do the job much better. I don't know, I'm just.
Oh, you're saying
looking-
elevate the
I think they
position.
need-
I-
Or
Elevate the
assistant
position.
treasurer
I
collector
don't think
versus
more money
regular.
translates into more hours. That's what they need. They need 60 hours of work at that level. So it's two
The
30-hour
processing.
people.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think
A lot
it's
of clerical.
that money
Time,
that
yeah, time.
if we
Oh.
just double it, that we'll get more.
It's in the
We
day.
really do need the manpower for that amount of time at the same, and we need to look at the salary too.
so
Okay.
So would anyone entertain a motion to,
I move.
a motion, oh, I'm sorry, just, this is just me speaking, but a motion for me to sign pending confirmation that the salary does not change, or the salary did not change. I just don't know the old rate, and I'm hesitant to sign without having the old number in front of me.
Especially since it's over. If it wasn't over
Right.
for the annual budget, I'd have no problem signing, but it's over. Granted, it's only $300, but yeah, I would make that motion,
I
Mike.
know you do that.
I'd make a motion that you sign it and accept it on our behalf, as long as the salary's the same.
Is there a second for discussion?
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion or questions? I would, I'll follow up, tomorrow, to confirm that the hourly rate doesn't change.
Most likely,
Yeah, and I don't think it
That's
would.
probably a day or two if they've only been here a short amount of time,
Right.
275 or 273, whatever.
And then, I'll report back, what I find and if I sign. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any questions, comments, concerns? All in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. All right, pending, so give Donna a call tomorrow. If it is a different rate, I'll make a note of the old rate and we can discuss at the next meeting. I can put that in there. All right, so old business, I'm gonna bypass a couple of these. So old business policies and procedures manual, that's pending the meeting, which I need to set up. So that's on me. The TIF, we're going to pass over because there's not much to discuss at the moment. Next, we have town meeting warrant. So I know we're waiting to review the warrant. Jim, do you anticipate changes to the warrant or like new articles coming forward? We're holding off reviewing.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be early December now.
Yeah, the
The
meeting.
first week, I think, in December.
Okay.
So, I can't say, it probably will change,
Okay.
so probably want to hold off on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll keep in touch with Bob and Charlie. We just don't want to review it until
Change the week,
we know.
Are we sure on the date yet for the meeting?
not
No,
hundred
that's
percent,
not.
because they really want to know when, they're gonna certify free cash.
Oh, okay.
As soon as they know that, they can confirm it, because they're trying to eliminate 2 meetings.
Yeah, that's a
Instead of
good
having
idea.
Yeah.
January, February, and one in October, add one in December, and save some money there.
Yeah, that would be good.
Look at that.
All right, next we have in front of us the budget bylaw. So this was sent to us by the budget review or bylaw review committee. This is I'll read the email. So hello FinCom, the select board has voted in favor of putting forward a new article for the town bylaws that outlines the budget process. The bylaws committee would like to help move this discussion along so we could have this article approved at the annual town meeting. If we could come up with a process soon that all agree with, we could try it out this year and based on that experience, make any necessary changes to the proposed article prior to the annual town meeting, which is a good idea. The goal of the bylaws committee is to come up with an article describing a process that identifies the sequence of steps that take place, who does what when, incorporate consultation, collaboration with the groups, facilitate a good working relationship among all citizens, and informing individuals so they can make informed decisions. This is a draft, and we would like to hold a joint meeting with you as soon as possible so we can incorporate your input. Please let us know when meeting times would work for you. So I would like to review this, make notes, send it back to them, and then we can set up a joint meeting just to review and discuss. Whatever we decide on, I like the idea of trying the budget process before adopting the policy, but we still have to go through the budget process. So,
Okay, and just an observation, just right out of the gate. The finance team appears to replace the finance committee in this document to review each of the,
Which one are you reading?
the budget process.
right, so the finance, it's definitely different than before. So the select board determines budget priorities. Town administrator develops guidelines for budget preparation.
You didn't get that either.
No, I didn't, okay.
I handed
That's
out.
on the back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was looking at
We're
this
not
one.
used to this.
No, this is saving.
Saving.
Yeah.
Same run of business.
I'm like, where is it?
So
You get this?
Oh, on
It's
the
on your
email.
phone.
Email.
Sorry,
Yes.
sorry, okay, I'm up to speed.
So town administrator develops guidelines, sets schedule for each department. And school department to meet with the finance team, which is comprised of the accountant, assessor, finance committee chair, town administrator, and treasurer. So as a note, that is different than the current process. The finance committee has always participated as a group on the finance team.
Yeah, I have concerns with putting that on one individual on an elected board, and I'm not saying this today's board, but this is a bylaw that will be with us forever, and if we sort of isolate that to the FinCom chair and only the chair, I don't think that's the right answer. I think it should be any member of the finance
But
committee.
it also leaves the entire finance committee out of the loop in terms of the budget
Right, and then we step in
budget
later on.
dialogue with each of the departments. So we would get it, if you get that, when we get down to the bottom, we get the final product that we react to, but we're not part of the process here.
Right,
So I like both points. I think having the opportunity for any finance committee member to participate is important because sometimes there's middle of the day smaller department meetings that some individuals can attend, some can't. So I think having finance committee members in there is helpful.
Now, if you have more than, you have a majority, then you just have to post it. I mean, that's no big deal. I just,
Yeah, and
yeah, we always err on the side of caution there anyway.
Perfect.
yeah,
Sure.
I mean,
absolutely.
to be honest, historically, all budget meetings like this for the finance team were held during our finance committee meeting. So we posted the meeting.
Perfect.
All the time.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. So I mean, that's something we can, bring up as a comment.
So yeah, in general then, because there's several references to that, I would say anywhere that FinCom chair is designated, it should just be FinCom.
Yep, I agree.
FinCom member.
He's a delegatable.
Or the whole team, if so be it.
Yeah, exactly.
Member/members.
On or about December 1, the town administrator forwards the budget priorities guidelines for budget preparation and the schedule to all departments and committees. That's fine. On or about January 15, based on the select board's budget priorities and following the guidelines established by the town administrator, departments and committees compile their budget proposal, meet with the finance team to discuss their proposal, and afterwards send their final proposal to the town administrator. I think that paragraph I think it's good pending finance team composition review. Right? And I think that'll cover every single time it references finance team as well.
Right. You identify the team right there and then.
So, but this is due the 15th of January, and then by the 15th of February, looking at item 3.
I didn't get there yet.
No, but I'm looking at the timeline here. Is that
Yes.
sufficient
4
time?
weeks.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Okay.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's driving, somebody needs to drive the process, and departments need to follow the process. This is a budget process. Certain towns and cities, they don't even give departments an option to look at their budget and review it. Like a mayor or a town manager
This is what it is.
puts it together and
Yeah.
hands it to them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're affording the departments an opportunity to work on their budget, but they need to work on it within the timeline, or else the finance team puts in what they feel is appropriate, which we have done in the past. We've had non-response, and we budget because nobody responded. So I'm okay with the 1 month. I mean, this aligns with the schedule that we proposed before. So
But I'm looking back and saying, that's really never happened in that time frame.
but that's a
Be
performance.
wonderful.
That's a performance problem.
I
It's
know.
not
It would be wonderful if we did.
right.
Okay, I'm fine with it.
We raise the bar, and
And he keeps saying 3, just repeats the same thing about the finance team, and of course in brackets it's saying, they should just have a separate line item. Finance team consists of this.
Yeah, definitions.
And then
Yeah, like a legal
definitions,
document.
right, and then
Yeah.
everything else is the same. I mean, it just keeps repeating themselves. But if you're gonna change one, then you gotta go through and make all these changes.
So after consulting with the finance team, departments, committees, February 15th, the town administrator sends the draft budget to the select board and finance committee. On or about March 1, the select board and finance committee meet to discuss the TA's draft budget. So essentially, we receive it February 15th, we have a meeting between March 1st, and then we meet with the select board jointly to discuss. The select board reviews the TA's draft budget and after consultation with departments committees as appropriate, adopts or modifies the TA's draft budget to create the select board's draft budget, which the select board sends to finance committee on or about March 15th. So they take the notes from March 1st, they go back to the departments, they make modifications, and then they send it to the finance committee, and it's labeled the select board's draft budget. On or about April 1st, finance committee sends finance committee's draft budget recommendations to the select board, which is okay. On or about April 15th, the select board and finance committee meet to discuss the respective positions, make revisions, and share their respective revised drafts. I think that's fine. 1 week prior to annual town meeting, the select board's final budget and finance committee's final budget recommendations regarding the select board's final budget are posted on town's website and are available at town hall.
Now, is it 1 week or is it 2 weeks? You want to go?
I don't want to go, but I will go. So Heather, 9 would be the only thing
Yes.
I have a
That's- I have a
question
note
on.
on
So I'm sure, but I gotta run to the conservation commission real quick.
If you see anything else or notes, just email me or.
Yeah.
These are to date that tomorrow, these are the 3 documents for it, but don't leave anything else in there, okay?
All right. So, hold on. About April 15th, we need to discuss 1 week prior to annual town meeting, the select board's final budget and finance committee's final budget recommendations regarding the select board's final budget are posted on town's website and are available at town hall.
But my question is, isn't it 2 weeks notice or 10 days notice?
So you post the article 10 days, but the information contained in that, I guess you
Okay.
can post a week, you can post a week prior.
Okay.
As long as the article is there.
As long as the article's there and maybe like the general dollar amount maybe is there, I think that's what it
And the
is.
detail is contained in
Can
the,
follow.
yeah, okay.
Can I just, I feel the way this is written, it's almost like we're coming up with 2 different budgets. Select board budget, FinCom budget, and then you get together. But I know that's not the spirit of it, and
So I'm gonna use, so the finance team, and let's, for discussion's sake, the finance team is also comprised of the finance committee. So we meet to discuss and review what the town administrator puts forward. We also meet to discuss the individual budgets with the town administrator, which is how the process has worked in the past.
yep.
The first half of this, for instance, leans, I think, a little heavier on the town administrator, which I am 100% for. I
Yeah.
feel like we've done a lot in the past with some of the budgeting and with some of the collecting of data and encouraging data, and it needs to be there. It needs to be there
I
because
agree.
they're the closest to the information.
Yep.
So the town administrator meets with the finance team. The draft budget is composed, and then it gets sent to the select board and the finance committee for review. So we
So
would
both
have,
are reacting to the same budget.
right, we're both reacting to the same. We make notes, so we meet separately, which I'm actually okay with because previously we've always met together on the same day, and it's, here's the budget, what are your questions? You know, and that's
Yeah.
really difficult because you
Yeah.
didn't actually look at it, and you didn't have you didn't have the ability to inquire about, you know, there's formatting issues. If it's not showing the right number of historical years that should be shown, you know, if there's things that are missing, you miss the opportunity to get that before the first meeting.
Okay.
So it goes to both, and then we have a joint meeting to discuss 2 weeks later, which I think is good timing. So we consult the finance committee, consults with the select board on the draft budget. We make changes, we recommend changes at that meeting. The select board makes the modifications based on the joint meeting, whether it's something we propose or we're against. So there, modifications will be made that we may not agree with. On or about April 1st, April Fool's Day, Finance Committee sends Finance Committee draft budget recommendation to the Select Board. So we will receive a draft budget from the Select Board on March 15th. April 1st, we send our recommendation or our recommended changes. April 15th, we meet again to discuss our recommendations. So if we recommended changing 4 lines or making a modification on April 1st, we meet 2 weeks later with the Select Board to discuss those. So I think we're working off the same document, but you're making red notes in there, right?
Okay.
That brings us to April 15th. So we discuss, and let's say we come to a decision, or we come to a standstill, whatever the situation is, we meet as a group to discuss. And then 1 week prior to annual town meeting, the Select Board's final budget and Finance Committee's final budget recommendations regarding the Select Board's final budget are posted on town's website. So I think the Select Board has a final budget, which we all would work on. Maybe it's the Finance Committee's final budget recommendations. Maybe it's a language tweak there,
Yeah, so
because it makes it sound like there's two.
Adversarial.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It makes it sound like we can't come to agreement,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure that's really the right light to
Right.
put on it.
Because if we don't, it's covered in number 9 anyway.
Which I want to get rid of because I think it's hogwash.
So I'll make a note here, Finance Committee final budget recommendations. I'm just gonna circle it as a look at the language, because it does make it sound like
There's 2.
the Select Board has their budget, and then we
We've
have
already
ours
said that
with the
in
little
stone.
changes.
We know we're not gonna
Right,
bring
you
in
should
something,
call
right?
it just
The
the final budget, and
And
then
then
the
our
select board will
recommendations or
submit
something.
a final budget, and
Right.
you'll submit your recommendations on the final budget.
Yeah, it's still the
I mean,
final
it's
budget.
pretty straightforward.
One budget,
Yeah.
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 Okay.
So just, I'm gonna make a
Because
note,
that was the line that was.
one budget language. And we're reading it with a skewed perspective as well. You know, because
Yes.
we're used to a different process, this is a
Yes.
process change, so when we read it, we see something different. Not necessarily good or bad, but we read it differently than someone who's not in the process
Right,
would
right,
read it, so. So we're up to item 8. So one thing, and I kind of want it to be, I want it to be encapsulated in item 8, is no revisions without some sort of joint meeting between the Select Board and the Finance Committee. And I know it's covered under item 9 because of last year's annual town meeting, but even prior to the town meeting, I think, if, for instance, the Select Board had to make a budget revision, and it was 1 week and 1 day prior to the annual town meeting, if the Select Board had to make a budget revision, that budget revision should take place with both parties. And I feel that's very important here, and I know it obviously trickles down, and it'll always reflect, I'm sure, for the next 5 years on what happened at last year's town meeting, but if we're gonna make a last minute change prior to the town meeting, it needs to be both, because
Because it could be the
Yeah,
finance
so-
committee making
Right.
the change.
it could be us,
Like, so
it could be them, but it just,
Right.
to make the process work better, there needs to be language in here, I think, about no changes prior to town meeting without joint meetings. You know, I know
I like that.
we cover the no changes, item 9 covers no
Right.
changes on the floor, but I think item 8 needs to cover no changes prior without a joint
Well,
meeting.
item 9 doesn't even make sense because as a committee, you can't propose a change. So it doesn't even need to be there. It's already covered by statute.
But I think, are they talking about someone other than the select board or the finance committee making a proposal to change the budget? Is
No.
that what they're referencing?
No.
No, they're referencing the finance committee or the select board making a recommendation for a change.
No,
Right.
at the last meeting.
But
Because the other one
we've
was
learned
voted
from the
out
last
anyway.
town meeting that it has to be an individual
Right.
only. that is allowed to put forth a motion changing the budget. It can't come forth from a committee.
Right.
So,
Well, a committee can discuss, and they can decide that, as a committee, we would support a line item that says this, but yet the motion comes from an individual. A committee can meet and discuss a change. There's nothing saying, so if you took out the select board or the finance committee, right, and you put the school department, and this was the budget process, for instance, you can't limit the school department from going up to the meeting floor and making a motion to change the funding of line item A and adding $5,000 from it, putting $5,000 there and taking $5,000 out of
Changing the
the
budget.
police department, right? So any committee can meet as a group to decide, and then an individual can go make a change. That, in my opinion, would be a new circumstance, right? A non-posted budget recommendation.
But that's where you're gonna see the controversy.
Right.
Because that's in your mind that, but in somebody else's mind, that leaves it wide open. I think 9 should just be X. I don't know.
I agree.
I agree.
I think
I don't see where you're gonna gain by that,
if you,
It's way too
because
subjective.
the loophole
Yeah.
is in extreme circumstances.
Right.
So somebody's gonna say, well, that was extreme, and they're gonna do it. So what good is that? I don't know, that's my opinion, but.
yeah, no, I agree with you. I think
agree.
if language is tightened up in 8, sort of prior to meeting language, to
Right.
where everyone needs to go there with either this is the budget or, this, you don't support something or you want to.
Yeah. Unless somebody changes, that's the way I read it.
Right.
I think 9's.
Yeah,
It is understood that only in new extreme circumstances will non-posted budget recommendations. See,
That's their loophole, new and extreme
yeah.
circumstance. So,
I think we should just
What
scratch
is
it all
extreme?
together.
exactly.
Under whose
That's a very,
definition?
Is it
That's-
bicycling? Is it
It's-
BMX? Like, what is extreme here? I
Yeah.
don't know.
Conversation's extreme, so.
It's too subjective.
right, that,
Or
that's the
new, or
loophole
new for that.
for
Right,
that.
how to define new.
And where is it
Thirty
years.
written that a board can't? Is this in the town's bylaws that it's written that a board can't propose a
Yeah,
change?
board can't, an individual can.
An individual.
An individual,
That's
but
like
where
mass
is it
law.
written?
That's not a
Oh,
bylaw, that's
it's
a
a mass
Yeah.
law?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't override.
See, I think the other thing is this puts. I don't like the language because it hinders you from making, like, if there was like something that we all agreed on, there was a change that happened 3 days before the meeting, you also can't do that.
It's too broad sweeping, it's just, it's inappropriate, in my opinion. I'm scratching it.
I'm good with that.
I agree.
That's our call.
I just think if it's
The way it's worded, it doesn't.
I was gonna say, yeah.
It should be,
It's contradictory.
yeah.
if it's about the finance committee and the
It's
select board
dictation.
coming together with one message,
I think
or
that's what it is, Mike.
that's what should be worked on in item 8. And
Yes.
individuals and members of other committees acting as individuals have their right to do these things.
Yes,
It's too muddy, and
yes.
I think you work on the relationship in advance of the meeting, so you don't deal with certain things like that. So item 9, we'll put it as a whole scratch. I would think.
Yep.
I think it's too broad, and it does not support a real emergency change either, right? Like, so if there was a real budget change, last minute something came up, this won't allow the select board or the finance committee to introduce that change,
Well, it would be new.
That would be
which is
extreme.
weird anyways.
It might be extreme.
It's an extreme conditions. That's so subjective.
You can slice it however you want. It'll get views.
That's why it kills itself with that statement.
Yeah.
All right.
Because you can override it in anybody's mind. They can say, well, in my mind, that's
No,
what
I
it is.
think
Yeah.
steps 1 through 8
Well,
have alleviated the need to write something
Right.
like what was number 9. You
Yeah.
know,
Yep. And the process itself, they get
In worst case scenario, if it's that bad, an individual can stand up and do it.
right.
And lead and try to get other people to follow and see the stage at that point. So it really doesn't change anything from the way it is today.
All right. So for notes here, we have the whole finance team definition: member versus members. We want members. We have the language on the finance committee final budget recommendations. And just kind of expanding on 8 to cover, expanding on 8 to cover some of the expectations or the worries of 9, right? Like, if I feel like you can handle some of the concerns that fostered 9 in 8 with just working on the language. So,
Right.
and that's it for the budget process. Unless anyone has anything else on this one. Oh, good. I like it. I think it pairs down ours, but it still follows the same line.
Here's a blueprint.
All right. So next.
Okay, so let's get back to the one that's always been an issue for us. We've set out, now I know this is now gonna be part of the town bylaws, but we've set out schedules and so on to guide the budget process. Every year I've been on the finance committee, and we've never met any of those deadlines. So what's gonna drive this to make sure that all of these things fall into place on the dates that are specified? I mean, they're gonna be, how's it gonna be, who will be charged with the authority to do this?
Town administrator.
The town administrators, I mean, it's job security for him. You do this
Right.
process. This is
Make
the
sure
most,
people adhere to this.
one of the most important processes in the building. And if the town administrator chooses to, for instance, if a department is unresponsive, then the town administrator makes the
Does the
decision
Okay.
to provide that budget and to
Okay.
input it. That's, I
Fine.
mean,
As
that's
long as that's
their
how it
managerial
happens.
work, but that's
Okay.
something that'll have to happen.
Okay.
That'll be something that'll
We've
just have
waited
to
and
be-
waited and waited, and
Right.
it never materializes, so.
It'll have to be
Fine.
sent to the departments, letting them know that they have a certain amount of
Right.
time, and if they don't submit their information, then he will move forward, or
Right.
she will move forward
Well,
and
it's
do the
never
budget
been-
for them.
It's never been documented anywhere before, has it? With a
Like a
timeline.
lack of, yeah. Well, we did last year.
Last year we tried.
All we can do is
Nothing
keep
happened.
trying.
It
That's
did the
all.
year before.
Yeah.
But I
Let's
think
hope that this works.
Trying to
This
make a
would work
process that works for everybody.
better for us than the way we've been working.
Right. No, I'm good with that. Because I mean, it affords you the opportunity to have 1 or 2 meetings in between these steps if you need to. I'm good with it, and it takes a lot of the heat off of us for meeting for hours upon
I was
hours
just-
to go through all
I
that
was about
stuff.
to
so.
say, having all these meetings that we had to do so many
Right.
last year, it'll definitely take some of that off of our,
Or like meetings where departments are unprepared.
Exactly,
You know,
yeah.
you don't have to deal with that.
and then they had to come back because they had nothing with them, and,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, to answer your question, I would lean on that's the town administrator's duty, and if, they're charged with the select board to provide the budget at this date, I would suspect that town administrator is going to make that budget on that date by, this is your budget. This is the proposed budget. We've done it in the past for departments, and
Can we put some non-curricular criminal ticketing in there?
They don't submit it.
Yeah, why can't we issue? it?
think-
Every other
I think
department
the-
will issue a ticket, why can't we?
I think the volunteer numbers would be down.
Well, just be quick with the ticket.
All right, next we have 2 new proposed articles for the bylaws regarding membership and the process for conducting business for committees, boards, commissions, councils, groups. See the attached drafts. The intention is to document our current process, remove ambiguity, anticipate circumstances, respond to suggestions, complaints by citizens and employees regarding how information is shared. Any answer or questions are answered, and create uniformity where it makes sense. We welcome your input. All right. New articles to be inserted after Article 1. Elected and appointed committee, board, commission, council groups conducting business. The regulations in this group pertains to all committee, board, commission, council groups, elected and appointed, except as otherwise stipulated by law. The first one, I'm honestly going to skip because it just goes over exactly how we operate in regards to spots. Unless someone wants to go through it, it's basically how we
Let's
set
just
up our
hit it,
committee.
let's just hit it.
Okay, that's fine. Within the first month, each group will appoint chair, vice chair, clerk. The newly elected chair shall communicate the results to the town clerk and town administrator, which we do with the form. Positions of chair and vice chair must be served by 2 different individuals. The chair is responsible for managing the group's work, membership records, documents, and communications, including common email, webpage, ongoing communication with select board. The chair is responsible for maintaining on the town server an electronic copy of all committees' completed related work, official documents, and useful information for future reference. I'm good with that. We don't necessarily do that now, and I don't know, I mean, the system isn't there to allow you to do that, but for instance, if we had a meeting, we wanted to scan all the meeting documents and save it somewhere, that's great, but the town would need to provide that quote-unquote server to save the, more of the information. The chair is responsible for making every attempt to recruit applicants to fill vacancies. The vice chair acts in the place of the chair. The clerk records and maintains the group's agendas, minutes, and posts the meetings. Any comments, questions? All right, all members of a group are responsible for obeying the open meeting law. So one thing I had in here at the bottom, and I'll just put here, is just referencing MGLs.
Do you know the newest changes to that? Did you, big things about minutes?
What about it?
You have within 30 days or 3 consecutive meetings, whichever is longer.
And if you don't, you're in violation of
You're in violation of the
Really?
meeting law.
Wow.
Correct.
So we'll actually get gold stars from
I
the
know,
state for our meeting
I know,
minutes. Thank you to everyone who's done that.
So that was one of them. There's a few.
So retroactively, do we look back at the
Yeah.
committees right
I know.
I just started
now? We're
putting-
good. Yeah, we've been pretty good with ours. Although there was the ones I did, and now I want to make sure we actually posted them because I don't remember if I sent them along. Meeting time and agenda for each meeting must be posted on mytowngovernment.org.
See now, is that a good idea to do that? Because if that ever changes, now you have to go through and modify this thing. Should you say town website? I'm just.
We do it. We go to mytowngovernment.org.
Yeah, but what if that changes in 2 years? Then you have to go through and you have to redo this and say it
Oh,
again.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Should you say the town's website
Yeah.
or?
On the official,
But there are, apparently there are 2 calendars.
yeah, that's why
They
this is
don't
the official
necessarily-
one, the
They don't
mytowngovernment.org.
necessarily.
Should you say it's an
coincide.
official town website?
Well, no, because.
Our town- I'm just throwing that out there because if you say that, it changes.
Then you
It's
have to go
not the
back in and
website,
change the
but that's
bylaw
the,
again.
that's the calendar that I
That is the
follow.
most accurate
And that's the most
calendar.
accurate. The
Yes.
calendar on the town website is not.
No, oftentimes they're not up to date
Not up to
there.
date.
Yeah, there's posting issues
Yeah.
between mytowngov and
One should feed the other,
like
no?
mobile app calendars.
You would
There's
think.
posting issues, and I think the town government there's issues. So if you update certain meetings, certain phones don't update your calendars with the new agenda. So just
It's just if you announce that and that changes, now you have to go through and modify the.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jim. I think it should say on the official
Appropriate.
town
Or
meeting.
appropriate communication.
That's all.
But what makes this one so accurate is each committee clerk is responsible for posting that information.
right,
They don't have that same access to the town website to do that.
right. Well,
So
yeah,
we gotta figure out
I'm good with-
who we're gonna use.
I'm good with leaning on the the town's official meeting service site.
Yes.
Whatever
Whatever
language they would like.
Today, tomorrow.
Right.
I'm good with that because it points everyone in the same direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where the clerk's name is there and there's an electronic record of who posted and when they posted.
Right. That way if it changes, it just goes with it.
Yep.
That's-
Or equivalent, and with the town clerk at least 3 business days. Hold on, the meeting time and agenda for each meeting must be posted on the site or equivalent, and with the town clerk at least 3 business days prior to the meeting. Minutes must be posted on the site.
I guess that's how they got away with it with their or equivalent.
Yeah.
Is this 3 days? Wasn't it always 48 hours?
Yep,
So now they're down to,
now it's,
they're
now
extending
it's
that?
more.
Is that a change in the law or is that a change in this article?
I don't know, I'm not on the committee. We're just,
I was
That
just
is a good
curious.
question though, because
It's-
we should
it's always
stick
been
with whatever
48
the state
hours.
law is.
Correct. Correct.
okay, so let's ask the question.
Yeah, and I don't want to, if it's 48 and they're looking for
For an additional,
36, no.
no.
That's,
It's gotta stick, we gotta be consistent with what MGL
So
says.
back to what you said, it says or equivalent.
Yeah,
That might be a negative because might not
Who
be the
determines
official
equivalent?
town website. So I think by putting the words the official
Or
town
equivalent.
yeah, I
website,
think you're right.
I think it keeps everybody on the same page, but
so minutes must be posted to the site and with the town clerk. See, I don't like and because we're not going to send them to the town clerk.
No, because
We
it,
post them to the site. And with the town clerk within 2 weeks after the next scheduled meeting.
2 2 weeks.
2 weeks, not just,
No.
no, that,
2 weeks after the next.
So that language needs to change to reflect the.
mass law, not open meeting.
Yes,
In
open meeting law, what you just
open
did.
meeting law, yeah, where it states it. Because if they change that in 2 weeks, or 2 years, you have to update this again.
Within 2
Yeah.
weeks after the next.
Especially if they go more stringent, right? So the mass
Right.
law is a little leaner, but if they choose to go more stringent and we don't abide by that, then we need to change the article.
Right.
All right, next, a quorum for conducting business shall be a majority of members of the group. However, a quorum may not be less than 2. Motions are passed unless otherwise noted by a majority vote, providing a quorum is present. That's fine. Meetings shall be held in a location accessible to people with physical limitations. I'm going to say sure, but I think
Wherever
that's the
possible?
wrong language.
Can we say?
Well, we're not there now.
possible? Yeah, I know.
Elevators are
I was
out.
about to say, yeah, the elevator's not working.
That's why I wanted
So
to
would
enter
that,
whenever
would that one,
possible.
would that one, cancel your meeting tonight up here? Just
Yeah, right?
asking. Elevator
Legally, we
service,
would have if
take them up.
this
Well,
bylaw was in
If this
place.
bylaw was
and-
in there.
I don't like the physical limitations verbiage, to be honest. Like, it needs to be, meetings shall be held in location accessible, or per Department of Justice and ADA requirements. Like, you can't say physical limitations, you need to reference the governing body on that, just because,
Again, too subjective.
Yeah.
You're leaving out, in this regard, you're leaving out sensory limitations,
right, and
vision and hearing.
So what should
Well,
it,
Right.
that's physical. That's physical, isn't it?
Well, they call it sensory. I mean, the real technical term is physical, like people who use wheelchairs and people with sensory disabilities.
So what are you gonna,
they're gonna need to want to reference the,
okay,
like, the ADA, the Department of Justice, like, there's tons of different groups, but there needs to be
ADA compliant?
broad but definitive language for that.
So we're just making recommendations back to the.
ADA compliant
Right,
facility,
right.
or something like that.
No,
Yeah.
we're not.
That's all, we just need to highlight it.
Yeah, I'm just making notes of kind of conversation pieces.
Yep, no, you're right.
With approval by majority vote, a member may take a leave of absence from a group for no longer than 2 months, provided that the membership would remain at greater than 50% of maximum membership for the group. If the latter is not the case, the leave of absence may not be granted, and the individual must either remain or resign. I don't see, I'm fine. Whatever.
that makes sense.
Members of all groups must provide up-to-date contact info, which we do. The information shall not be shared with the general public without the individual's permission. It is solely for official use. Yep.
You skipped the middle there.
Hmm?
No.
1.7. A note on that, though, and this is more for a town administrator. We should have some sort of committee, commission, board contact list that's accessible.
That's a good idea.
But not like if I wanted to, so when we give our information, we give a contact number and a contact email. I feel like there should be a way, like if I wanted to call Jim Palermo or email him and I didn't have it, but I'm on a committee, I would, have a way to reach him, right? I mean, the emergency contact's for the town administrator, but the contact should also be for the group, I would think.
Well, website has a contact info.
For a committee, yeah, I mean, you have to email the committee directly
Right.
and then say, hey, what's Jim's number? I don't know,
Yeah.
that's just a note of, like, a
Go
town
on, Jim's number,
administrator.
I guess.
No.
Sorry, Jim.
Next, it is the responsibility of the chair of each group to maintain accurate membership records for his or her committee. That's our responsibility to notify the clerk, yep. It is the responsibility of the chair or their designee to respond to resident inquiries by mail, email, or phone within 5 business days of receipt. I think that's great. Especially for, close your ears, Jim, but for requests from the select board. Because I know I've made some requests that have not been responded in within 5 business days.
They have.
Or 5 business
Telepathically.
weeks, really.
Here it comes.
There you go.
Write-in candidates for elected groups must have a minimum of 25 votes in order to be elected.
I have a problem with that. It goes against the state recommendation of general elections being more votes than any other candidate for that office. There's no minimum number of votes required. Why are we gonna go stricter than the
Well,
state?
what I heard is if you were to pull papers, you have to go out and get 25 signatures to be on the ballot. So that's where I heard that.
Yeah, but if it's open.
I'm just telling you where.
No, I understand, but if it's open, we should take whatever we get. If someone's
Yeah.
willing to take the position
Well-
and they got more than one vote.
Again, I just feel that if we're gonna
Yeah, I'm
jerk
just-
the wheel and go 5 times greater than what the state recommendation is for a
The
general
state
election,
says
who are we
5?
as the town of Southampton?
What does the state
to
say?
say
that. Yeah.
More votes than any other candidate for that office, no minimum number of votes required.
Right. Yeah, I'm good with not having a minimum because
I mean,
we have a full board.
I'm
You know
just
what I
trying, I
mean?
heard that, I'm just.
Yeah.
man,
That's
it's
a risk.
gonna stay.
Someone-
That's what it is.
No,
that's the risk you run. If you don't go on the ballot, there may not be a position for you if you're gonna play on the writing game, so, you know.
I just feel like there's such a,
So many positions.
there's so many
unfilled.
positions
Yeah.
unfilled, and if we're gonna now restrict it to even more, that you've gotta get this, 25 votes.
Are there a lot of positions unfilled?
I haven't looked at it recently. I don't know if it's been updated, but
Well, there's 2 on
I mean,
the,
how many times are there not even
No, it's
anybody
not
running
there.
for all of the open positions?
Right, there's a lot of times when we're doing the caucus, there's a lot of empty spots at
Correct.
that point.
and I think so. The other thing, right? So if someone gets 24 votes, it means they're not elected. But then, what if it's actually? Does the select board have the ability to?
That's what's also in here, is that the select board would then appoint those open positions. So
Yeah,
then you could
see.
possibly have 3 people filling a position that you formally said 25 people had to vote for. It just.
Right. Yeah.
It's-
It takes it away from the voters. Really.
Absolutely.
If that's what they choose,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that's what they should be.
I think again, state law. We have no reason
Yeah.
to be writing
Yeah.
stricter unless, I just don't see it. I mean, there's a risk to playing the writing game, but the writing's not available. If you wait and.
I'm just telling you where I heard the 25
Yeah.
came from, I asked that, but.
Yeah, I'm good with. I just put a note adjust to.
I think we
State
should
elect-
copy the exact
reference.
language
Yeah.
and say that to be elected in a general election, a write-in candidate must receive more votes than any other candidate for that office. There is no minimum number of votes required. We
In the notes.
should actually
Yeah.
just.
Can you? Is there an MGL on that?
No, I just pulled it off the Secretary of Commonwealth. It was like a guide for running for office.
Okay, so running for office.
Do you want me to, here,
Just keep it because we'll have the joint meeting.
take a picture of it with your phone?
Oh yeah.
I always forget we have that convenience.
I know, right?
That's the best scanner I have.
Burn up the storage, people.
Yeah.
That's why it's cloudy all the time, the clouds are getting.
Yeah, that's it. That's why GE's got a new one, the Predix.
Thanks.
All right, so that covers that one. Obviously a lot of comments. We follow a lot of this, but language, and I think, if we're going to reference something or put some sort of guideline together, if there's the guideline we're emulating or one we're referencing, we should actually reference the guideline. So, article next: appointed committee, board, commission, council groups membership. 2.1. This article describes regulations related to memberships of appointed groups in all instances where there are no existing state laws defining such. So these are for appointed groups. All groups must have the maximum number of members and alternates if appropriate, specified at the time the group is created, and the maximum number should be an odd number. These shall be an odd number. Should is too lenient. Should an existing group, which was originally set up with an even number of members, consistently not be able to conduct necessary business due to tie votes, the group may petition the select board, or the select board may so decide, to increase the official membership of the group by 1. In this case, the vote by the select board would supersede any previous stipulation of the official number of members of the group. So,
Do we have any boards that have even?
Okay, select board.
select board.
Well, right now.
Right
yeah.
now.
I don't think so.
I know, I thought that would, yeah.
I mean, I think,
The language is fine.
yeah, if you drop down to an even,
Yeah,
I get it if you want to appoint someone to fill the position, but, you know, the chair of that appointed committee is already pursuing a replacement as well for the previous
Yeah,
article. So you're pursuing, if you don't have any luck, maybe you go to the select board because you're appointed by the select board and say, hey, we need help, we need another member. I'm okay with that. Individuals may request to join a particular appointed group by submitting an application form to the said group or the select board directly. All application forms received by the select board shall be forwarded to the member of the group. The form application to serve on a town board or committee may be obtained in the town administrator's office. In considering applicants, members of the group shall evaluate applicants' qualifications in light of the needs of the group. A group shall submit its recommendation along with the applications considered to the select board within 1 month of receiving an application. In rare cases, when it is determined that the needs of the group so dictate, the select board may ask a group to consider the expedited review of an application.
I wonder if we could add something in there about posting open positions. I don't know if there's a process in place that mandates that gets done.
I'll make a note about posting. I don't know if it's in here. If we see it, we see it. If not, it's a good point. I know we do, but if it's, is it always kept up?
Right, and it just should be documented if that's.
Yeah. Because frankly saying, we have committees who need members at the select board meeting doesn't necessarily
Yeah, for the 10
It all-
people that are paying
the
attention there.
masses. And, we're 5 of them and we can't even
Yeah, we
volunteer.
can't be on it. so.
All right, I'm good with this. I don't know what the application looks like, but I'm going to make a note regarding the application. The application should be as stringent as the previous processes we've gone through for like the Council on Aging. When I volunteered for this committee, like it was a letter of interest, a resume, it needs to be stringent, and I'm sure it is, but we need to make sure it is as stringent as previous situations. For instance, with the planning board, was it last week's meeting, making sure that the planning board change, the process is the same as the process was for the Council on Aging members to be filled. Council on Aging was strict, and the select board did kind of need to take over because it wasn't going anywhere, but that process was more difficult than some processes that were in the past. So we just need to make sure we stick to the same.
if in fact the individual chooses to go to the select board rather than go to the committee, then the committee has nothing to say with having any input into the application, yes or no? Or is that doesn't come through?
No,
I see your point, Francine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's almost saying it can bypass the committee
altogether.
and then just go to the select board.
But at the end of the day, doesn't the select board have the
Yeah.
ultimate authority
Yeah.
from the
Right.
recommendation
They
of the
do.
committee?
Yeah.
So
So that's a moot point.
it is a moot point, because they ultimately do. But I would think the select
in the
board would take
spirit
the
of-
recommendation of the committee and should seek the recommendation of the committee.
Right, but that doesn't say that here.
It does say it should be an unusual circumstance, but
Yeah, it should be, but that's all I'm just saying.
it's just.
New and,
Rare.
what was it, new and extreme? Only under extreme
Yeah, and the other point that's not here, it says, we forward. Where does it say here about a month?
A group shall submit.
Recommendation to the select board with 1 month of receiving the application. Let's say they don't receive any applications, 2-3 months go by. When does the select board step in and say, we need to, how much time do they have to fill the position?
The select board, the chair should be soliciting for new members.
Right?
The select board appointed the individual who's the chair. So, it is kind of, it's a hierarchy of reporting. The select board liaison to the committee, or someone should be talking to the chair. How are we going to fill this? What are we doing?
Right.
There's like an implied hierarchy of responsibility
Right.
there that they need
Events
to report
like
to each other.
In the instance of the other committee you were talking about, 4, 5, 6 months went by, and
Right.
no action was taken. That's to the detriment of the committee, so I'm
Right.
saying, should there be something in here that says, if the committee itself
Failure
does
to
not
act.
come forward with any recommendations within 60 days, the select board will take action to appoint. Just something that puts
Yeah, but who are
something-
they gonna appoint if no one's applying? They're just gonna,
The other thing that's weird here, the bottom of 2.4, that little, if there's no position available, it's the responsibility of the chair of the group to communicate this to the applicant within 2 weeks of receiving the application. And then you go on to the next one.
I don't like that because
I know,
because
that's,
if you don't post a job, let's say I apply for your company and I just send in a resume, you don't have a job posting, you don't have to call me back. It's kind of
If he does have one, he doesn't have to.
I'm just saying, that's number one, then
Yeah.
then if you go to 2.5, if you read the first sentence, if he feels that he wasn't evaluated
They're gonna
fully by the
investigate it.
group or within a
Yeah.
specific time frame, that's 2 weeks, then he can go to the select board. I just
You want
think,
that on
Well,
the
you
select
have
board's agenda
committees,
too?
I just think that's a
but
little,
the other problem you have is you have committees that only meet once a month.
right.
Right.
right, exactly what I'm saying.
Reasonable time.
And I think
would put.
that if there is no job posted or listed,
Don't
and you're getting resumes, you're gonna have to answer to these guys all the time, like you said. I mean, I was reading those 2 sections, and I just thought it was a little.
I mean, you know, the other thing, I think it leans on the, I'm going to say the professionalism of the volunteers, but if you want the position, you submit your information, but you also make it a point to go to the meeting, right? You make it a point to introduce yourself. Perfect example, I talked to the town administrator, I volunteered for the finance committee, I gave them all the information, I was given a date to go before the select board, I went to the select board and I sat there.
You weren't elected.
Originally, I just volunteered. Post lobotomy. But I sat in the room and they went by my appointment and they appointed me and then they just passed over it. So like if you want to be on the committee, you should make the effort to go to the meeting, to
Well, yeah.
introduce yourself. I think that's just a common practice of professionalism, right? And sending an application and not hearing back 3 weeks and being able to
Yeah, I
complain
just
to the
think
select board doesn't make sense.
No,
It's very,
not that I envision it actually ever happening.
right.
I think people are beating down the doors to volunteer, but it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, there's a level of professionalism to the committees and boards, and applicants should be up to that level of professionalism of introducing themselves, going to the committee, you know, reaching out, because
Absolutely.
I have all of it circled, and you know, we can speak on it. You guys will speak on it as well.
I'm sure, yeah. We'll get to it.
I mean, I would say.
Have you guys reviewed these at all, select board? Have you reviewed these
I
general bylaws?
quickly, yeah, but they keep tweaking them.
Changing.
Yeah. But,
All right, 2.6, if group members whose term expires at the end of the fiscal year wish to be reappointed, the group shall evaluate these individuals' applications along with those of any new applicants. Group's recommendations for appointment and reappointment for the next fiscal year should be submitted along with all applications considered to the select board by May 15th. If the select board has not received the group's recommendation by May 15th, and if there are no new applications for the group, the select board may choose to reappoint those whose term expired at the end of the current fiscal year. May
That
choose
sounds- that's-
to reappoint those.
Well, I don't know, because if the group does not come forward with recommendations to continue someone in a position, but the select board can go in and still reappoint that
I
person.
mean, at the end of the day, to
Because
Dan's point, they are ultimately,
Right, one of the uncomfortable
Responsible.
things about this, it doesn't stipulate in here how these groups vote to recommend whether someone should or should not be reappointed. Right now, they're by voice, and there is some pressure. People may disagree, but are not comfortable in those settings voting no against the sitting person on a committee.
Yep.
So I think if we're going down this path, we need to put something in by, vote by ballot or something like that, so that it is anonymous and that,
So hypothetically, let's say someone served on a committee there were 3-year terms, they served 2 terms, it's their final term. And the other members started 3 years prior, right? So this person's been a longstanding member. It's just very weird to me that the committee itself votes to reappoint the outgoing person. It just seems weird because they weren't even there at the inception of the ad hoc committee, for instance, and now they're voting who is and isn't on when it should ultimately just be the select board, I would think. I mean, some committees
Unless
may
there's a
operate that way.
compelling reason for someone not to be reappointed.
Yeah, unless everyone comes forward and says, this person's bad. But I don't know. I mean, we're not on that. We're not in that situation because we're elected, but it does seem.
yeah, I'd be interested in some of the feedback from some of the other groups.
Yeah, just.
On this particular.
That's a great point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just keep bracketing.
Yeah.
Bracket the whole thing.
Next, 2.7. The select board shall evaluate all applicants' qualifications in light of the needs of the group. The select board will give considerable weight to a group's recommendation for each appointment or reappointment. I guess that language is fine if that's the way they go. Like I said, I'm still confused about 4 members of a 5-member board recommending someone who could be the long-standing sitting member or not recommending it when they didn't appoint them to begin with. So,
Yeah.
I'm going to skip 2.7. 2.8, once the select board appoints an individual, the town administrator's office sends a notice to the individual and a copy of the certificate of appointment to the town clerk's office. Individuals must formally accept the appointment by being sworn in by the town clerk.
That's pretty much the way it is.
If a member of a group is absent from more than half of the group's regularly scheduled meetings over a 6-month period or does not participate in the group's work for over a 6-month period, said member may be removed from the group by majority vote.
Majority vote by the group?
By who?
By the,
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
It doesn't say.
Yeah.
Probably should clarify.
But if they're appealing to the select board, it must mean the
Right.
Right.
Which, I mean,
Well, then it says you can appeal your decision to the select board.
Yeah,
So the
so I
select
think
board
they
votes.
meant to say.
You guys really mean that? I'm gonna appeal.
All right.
What's the appeal?
maybe, can I just add in here, maybe removed from the group by ballot vote of the majority?
I thought you were gonna say by force.
No. No. We'll just call Mike.
210, in rare cases, the select board may vote to remove some or all members of an appointed group for cause.
We go with rare
The
cases.
select board's consideration of such an action may be instigated by the select board itself or by a petition of 50 signatories, of which at least 40 must be residents and up to 10 may be employees.
I don't like any of it.
Well, but hold on, I mean, in fairness, they're giving a parameter of what the rare case is and what you need to do, and you need to have a signature, so it isn't subjective. It needs to be 50 people signing it, 40 need to be residents. And you know what? At the end of
Or the select board.
where does it say or?
The select board's
Or-
consideration of
May
such an action may be
vote to-
instigated by the select board itself or by a petition. So we're saying,
For cause.
Or
cause.
by itself.
Before
or-
that, the
yeah.
first sentence ends
For
with
cause.
cause.
yeah.
I like this. I think,
And at the end of the day, they
similar
can take
situation.
it. Can't the select board take out a person anyway? Of their authority, so.
They appointed them.
Exactly.
But this, if they don't, but there are others in the community.
Now there's a petition.
they
Now there's
have
a way to
have
present
They
petition.
have to have a mechanism of making sure that their voice is loud and clear.
I
This
like
is
the
way to
petition
do it.
part, yeah.
I
no,
think
I
it's-
think it's fine, because you aren't giving up anything in the first part, because it's like, well,
'Cause
you
they're
do it
the majority,
anyway.
right, yeah.
Now you're
Yeah.
adding a bonus for the townspeople to speak up.
Which I think
Yeah.
people
I think that's
want.
good, yeah.
I think it's fine. Mike's not all about
I'm stuck on the 10 employees.
Well, there's
That's because,
It's
that's because
optional.
some of the employees may not live in town, they may not be residents.
Right.
Like the girl we just signed her paper for, she lives in East Hampton.
Right.
So I think that's why they're saying 50 signatories, which at least, 10 may be employees, so you may have an employee.
No more
that
than
is-
10 employees.
Right, no more than 10. And you may have someone who doesn't live in town
Yeah.
that wants
That's
to put it.
20%. That's just, I don't know. I guess
High, but
it's 20% of your required signatures. So
maybe.
maybe.
But understand
But if-
that some boards have a different kind of working relationship with the employees,
Well, they
let's say
impact the employees.
Hypothetically, though, let's say that
back and forth.
they don't, but let's say hypothetically, the police union had an issue with the police chief serving on something. You get 10 signatures right off the bat, and then spouses sign. So there's 20. It's very weird to me that.
Well, the spouses of the 10, do they have to be in town?
They'd have to,
Yeah,
yeah, they'd have to
Yeah,
live in
that's
So
that.
let's say they all. I don't know. It's just.
Well, they live in town, they're
residents.
I don't understand why they specify or don't specify that.
No, they're not saying eliminating employees, they're talking about addressing some of the membership of the
You
committees and the
don't-
boards.
Yeah, are you leaning towards you don't want anyone from out of town being able to sign a petition?
No, that's, no one from out of town can sign it. I don't think you guys are reading that correctly.
no,
Or maybe I'm not.
You're not reading it right.
No, no.
No, I think no more than 10 employees that are also residents can put forth this.
Doesn't
say
also-
They also
Doesn't say
residents.
that.
Doesn't say, so
No.
we're
Yes.
assuming, and I
Right.
think that's where Mike's
I
having a
don't-
heartburn.
So I don't like the
Okay.
which at least 40 must be residents, right?
It seems like they all have to be residents if you're weighing in on an appointed
But some
board.
of
It
the
should be.
boards affect some of these
Employees,
individuals,
and they may-
employees, and their ability to do their job, which may reflect negatively on those employees.
Mhm.
And so what they're saying is if that, they can get some of their coworkers, but they gotta at least get 40 people from the town. And I'm, maybe the percentage isn't right, Mike, but the majority definitely does need to be town.
So
Um,
I just think of it process-wise, right? So the select board is elected by
Townspeople.
townspeople who pay taxes. The select board chooses to appoint individuals who are tax-paying residents.
Not always.
Yeah, no, they have to be.
Always, everyone.
Yeah.
For most
On the
committees.
committees.
On the
yes.
committees and groups,
Yes.
yeah.
No,
You have to
no.
be.
Well,
Give you an example, Tom Quinlan was
Register.
on, the ad hoc driveway
Yeah.
committee.
You're right.
Chief Workman was on committees
resident.
before he came to
Before.
town.
Okay, you're right.
So I'm just pointing a couple of examples out,
That's
not right or
very
wrong or
interesting.
indifferent, but they're there and, I question some of that.
Well, do they specify that? That's probably something that should be added.
Well, when you have a driveway,
Language
you
of
want information from the fire department to see whether it's gonna
right.
fit for his vehicles going in and out of the driveway, so
Which-
not having the fire chief.
Which we was
So and
found out to be unrealistic.
with these two,
Airplane.
We worked it all out.
You're talking about
But
a
it's my
fire
fault, it's
chief
just bringing
here
example
as
of
an
our different-
employee, as opposed to, we're talking about the
Yeah.
composition of boards, committees, and
I honestly, I'm not.
commissions.
I don't get stuck on like the driveway committee or
What do you stuff?
public safety building. Just the
Is it the out of town? Is it the
it's the
employee?
out of town.
It's the out of
It's
town?
the elected. It's the registered elected voters voting for the select board who acted on the residents' behalf by appointing these individuals, and then individuals from out of town are able to sign a petition
Yeah.
to circumvent what you chose to do as a select
No.
board member.
Then would you be happy if we left it this, by a petition of 50 signatories?
Yeah, resident.
Resident signatories,
And get rid of
period.
the,
Yeah, I mean,
Just
I,
residents, all right.
Yeah.
resident
But that-
signatories.
That brings me to another thought, though. Shouldn't we define who can be elected and appointed in our town? Nowhere in this document does it say that.
Anyone who's a citizen should be able to.
You have to be a resident, I know, to be on the select board. The minute you move out of town, you are instantly off the select board.
But that's select, which is elected. I'm talking these appointed and elected committees, boards, commissions.
They
Would
don't
this
all have to
article
be.
apply?
They don't have to be in
They all
town.
don't have to be town residents.
Like we do.
So can we pitch
That's in our
that?
bylaw.
Can we pitch that out there that the bylaw committee looks at least defining which committees have to have residents?
Yeah, I think it's that important. I
The town
do.
administrators I can tell you now, is not a resident of South. It will
But
not be
again,
a
they're
resident.
hired, paid
They're hired.
employee.
They're
Can't
hired.
really say no one lives in
Committee,
Southampton.
not serving.
Well, you said the building inspector, he's hired.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just,
I
I
don't
think he's hired. I mean,
But the reality is the committee should seek their opinion, but not have one of those out-of-towners voting. It is really what I say. So. again,
yeah, if you wanna, you guys recommend whatever you would like there, because I think it's valid.
But that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Is you go back and you come back and you get those opinions as a committee. But yeah,
I think you should have to be a resident to serve on.
All right, so then let's just.
The only reason I say that, the town administrator, well, right now we have 4 applicants,
Right.
none of them from town, that's why.
But they're
I
hired.
think-
Which is understood, I mean, a
Right,
position like.
so it is, I mean, I would entertain anybody, I just wanna make that clear, I'm not saying I wouldn't.
Yeah.
And I would think,
But,
as far as defining who can serve on the boards, yes, it could be employees, but that should be defined, who can and who
Right.
cannot. So it could be any resident of town and/or town employees if their work is, like with Tom with the
It's
driveway.
very important to, they have a lot of expertise to bring to the
Absolutely.
table, I think it's important.
I agree, and I don't want to box them up, I think it
Right.
should be defined, because I think as it is
You're
now,
right.
you could
You're
put
right.
anybody on.
Someone could take
Yeah.
someone from East Hampton and put them on
You got
the
it.
conscom right now.
You got it.
And
Maybe
they
not,
could be
maybe they have a
going there,
bylaw, I
so-
don't know.
Right,
but-
so their specific bylaws may be stringent and go over all the requirements, but, you know, it's maybe an ad hoc committee or something that just,
Public safety complex, prime example. I mean, what's
Right.
to stop, I don't know, an architect wants to get in on the deal. I don't know, I'm just throwing
Right.
things out there. It just seems to me this is town business, you should have to live here and pay
We'll make
taxes.
the recommendation.
Or be an employee with relevant knowledge.
yeah. So I put notes, just here, define residency requirements, define voting requirements, defining,
Not just
I don't know what
requirements,
that
but
word is.
procedures. Like, I still come back to this, a ballot thing,
About,
a ballot thing.
when voting to
When a
reappoint.
board votes to reappoint somebody on the board.
So, private ballot.
So it's anonymous, I agree, yeah, because you shouldn't have
Anonymous
under
vote
pressure
or-
to vote
Right.
one way or another,
Yep.
right?
that's fine.
People can't, yeah.
and maybe, in terms of the voting, I would think that, maybe that's left up to the committee commission, but it's not gonna be, because, we've seen with the TV recording that a committee or commission may choose not to be recorded, but it's really not ultimately up to them. When you talk about the ballots, you would think it's implied that if they choose to do an anonymous ballot on a committee, that it's okay, but you never know who may come in and say, no, we're gonna do this differently, so I put, just ballots.
I'm giving the option up, but, well, I don't know. I
Because Heather
think-
won't
I think
vote
it's, I
my
think it's
face to move
uncomfortable
job.
for people to.
I don't know why you assume that.
Well, you're right.
It's not assumed the conversation happened.
She just asked me about, off that one.
So these are good notes. Yeah, I didn't mean to perseverate
More than you hoped for.
on the last one, but it just, having non-residents be able to sign a petition to have someone removed who was put there by an elected body is just, that person can't speak at town meeting without permission from the town moderator, but we're gonna give them permission to remove someone, an elected person appointed, which is, or to help remove someone, which seems a bit weird, like it should come from internal individuals, and, if they have an issue, they can go right to the select board and communicate, but not necessarily participate in the voting.
In that extreme condition.
Yeah, because they couldn't help put them there in the first place.
So do we
Right.
offer anything crazy like more pay if someone lives in town on these positions?
What positions?
We can't
mean,
afford, we
so-
can't afford to pay the people
I
who live in.
understand, I
Right.
understand. But obviously, if someone's in the,
Well, he's
mix
saying,
with it, I'm thinking.
are you saying penalize somebody for not being? in
No,
town?
I'm looking at it as the opposite, incentivize someone to live in town, and so we hire the administrator, use that as an example, they live out of town. Give them an extra bump if they move into town because they're gonna be more vested in this, or give them, however you look at it, give them less if they don't live into town.
You don't want them living in town. Just, I think, in my opinion, it gets really convoluted and complicated sometimes when you're, especially for for instance, the town administrator we're looking at, they're looking to bring in someone to help clean up some of the things we've struggled with in a town, and there's going to be difficult decisions.
Yeah.
In, requiring them to live here is difficult.
And the other
Incentivized,
situation,
yeah.
they may
Like-
be in a situation of a conflict of interest, depending upon what the issue is. So
Right.
having someone.
I just like someone in the boat with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I,
That's all I'm getting at.
But if you have nothing to do on November 9th, starting at 3 o'clock, we're starting the interviews. And
3:30.
broadcast.
Oh.
Well, we kept going back and forth because we were gonna start at 3 and then come up with the questions, but we're doing that ahead of time and getting them to
So
them.
November 9th, what time?
Whether it's 3 or 3:30, it's gonna be,
the meeting starts at 3, conversation to ensue, and then interview sometime after.
correct.
And there'll be 4 candidates you're interviewing on that
There's
day?
all night, yeah, we're gonna be there till 8. So we're gonna block out an hour for each candidate, and it'll be broadcast live, and then no decision is to be made as far as I'm concerned. And we want people, if they have any questions, send to the town administrator, or talk to any select board member you see, and share. This way we can hear from
Get
the
some
public.
feedback.
Are you excited
Absolutely.
about the candidates, Jim? You think we got some good?
I just started reading through them now,
Okay.
so I've
And there's
heard
more,
we
you
have
said?
some great choices.
Good.
We have great candidates in front of us, so I'm excited.
And just
That's so
find
key in
some
this town.
concerned members, or they.
That's so key to this town, getting the right person in
Right
there.
there.
Absolutely, Jim.
Absolutely.
That's gonna be,
It's gonna be huge.
All right, so we've gone through the 2 bylaws. I will reach out to the bylaw committee, and we will have a joint meeting to rediscuss. Next, the liaison reports. Select board, any important new
I
information?
called John before I came, I tried to, is there anything I should bring up? And I guess he was just tied up, I didn't hear from him, so.
That's fine.
I have nothing.
I have nothing. I think they're meeting to Wednesday this week.
Wednesday?
I'm gonna try to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you, obviously you can communicate with Erin too. Like, she's good with email, so if
Yeah.
you can't make it and there's something,
Okay.
she'll email you.
No meeting yet.
Nothing since the last one?
Yeah, not since the last one.
Okay. Just letting the dust settle.
I think so.
Okay.
They're meeting the first Monday in November. I think it is.
Okay.
Okay.
PQB?
Yeah, the 2 PCFs we already discussed
Mhm.
from the PPPB. And then they were in the process of continuing to review job descriptions. On the docket, we had the town accountant, the youth librarian, and the COA director. And the only one we got to was the COA director because the town accountant wanted to be present
Mhm.
and wasn't. And a trustee from the library wanted to be there to discuss the youth librarian, and they weren't able to make it, so we really just went over the COA director.
Okay.
Which I think one of the major changes will be that the COA director will report to the town administrator instead of to the board.
Great. So they report to the,
Forward right there.
I mean, supervised by, managed
Okay.
by, and I think this for people who aren't in the building all the time, whether it's the COA or the other department, who are the managers of that department.
Mhm.
4 people, 5 people, they don't know, they're not here every day, they don't know what goes on, the problem comes up, what are they, who does this individual go to? So
okay.
that doesn't mean that they don't have a responsibility
To the board.
Well,
to the board. It just means
Town
for
administrator
day to
reports
day.
to select board, so just put one more layer,
Yeah.
but giving more response at the day-to-day level, so.
They're here all the time.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what makes sense.
I would, it makes sense, absolutely, because if we see a problem with it, then obviously the select board can weigh in.
Yep.
So
Anyway,
that makes sense.
All right, I have one thing, and it's not, I guess it's a liaison report. So I didn't attend the last select board's meeting, but I did watch the meeting, and Jim was present. One of the items that came up was the pay increase for the custodian. And just to backtrack, the PQB did not recommend, and they provided justification. We did not recommend. John was here, so he was here for the justification. He provided the justification at the meeting for our point, and then on his own point as well. One thing that I'll be honest, Jim, and I'll tell you that concerned me was the way, basically echoes Jim Palermo's concerns that he said.
I read his letter.
But the way it was put forward by the town administrator and the chair is, it's not 100% what happened. So
Could you articulate what you were
I didn't have a
thinking? Because I
chance
didn't
to-
see it.
So the PQB didn't approve the position for numerous reasons, but they provided documentation to the select board. We didn't approve. We provided basically John.
The money wasn't there.
The money wasn't there, we talked about it.
Yeah, money wasn't there. I think it set a weird precedence about mid-year raises that we just don't do.
Yeah,
But the PQB's non-recommendation basically was well written, and it was forwarded to the parties, but it wasn't actually discussed in the meeting. And the reasons weren't, in my opinion, properly put out there about why it was not approved.
what were the reasons stated?
I'd have to go in the,
But
Yeah,
the
I
reason
thought
John Martin pretty much stated.
for us, he did, but
Correct,
not for the PQB.
I don't know if he was there. or
And
not.
he probably wasn't, he's not the liaison, but, I mean, the PQB put together a very good letter, and it sort of fell on deaf ears and was not part of the conversation. And then, I'll be honest, I've also read the legal opinion regarding the library salary changes, in the way that legal opinion was put forward to everyone in the room and everyone watching does not 100% align with the legal opinion. I feel like it was
Manipulated?
mincing words and a little bit changed to fit the agenda of giving the raise versus actually everything, you know?
Well, I don't think we were talking about giving the raise as much as we were talking about there was no money for it. Let the townspeople, that was my opinion, was to let the townspeople, if they want to appropriate the money at the town meeting, I have no problem with it. That was my take on it. I was not going to vote to approve the raise then and there. I just
Right.
wanted to have the option
The
to.
option to.
So is it safe to assume they're putting forth an article to have it transferred?
No, it was deadlocked.
Oh, oh.
Yeah,
okay.
There were two deadlock votes since I've been on the board with
Yeah.
the four-member board.
But I think
Was
that,
that one, and then the vote to have a fifth, so we don't have deadlock.
So what's your
Let's do
concern
that.
is the misrepresentation of the work that was done by the other committees and the
Yes.
recommendations?
Yeah.
I have the language here.
Yeah.
So two-
The letter was attached to the,
basically two voting committees, two elected advisory committees recommended against something. One committee, for instance, the skill set of the PQB, I will be honest, they're far more qualified to do what they do than I am to do what I do here. And their recommendation wasn't even
Don't talk about it.
wasn't even discussed. It wasn't even discussed. I mean, they have human resource professionals on that committee. We don't even have those in the building, and their recommendations weren't discussed. And then, I'll be honest, the way it was frankly put by the town administrator that the select board can just, well, you can just overrule those recommendations. Yeah, maybe you can. The legal opinion I read didn't say, yes, you can just carte blanche overrule it, especially if financial situations determine that the money is not there, you know.
But it's that kind of talk and that kind of action that leads to distrust of
Right.
our government in town, and it's why we have a hard time getting some of these larger items
Right.
to pass.
Right, and it was just the way it was handled and put forward. I can go back even further to when we originally discussed the position in this room. It was a point of conversation and contention that if we bring someone in from an outside collective bargaining agreement, that we do not have to follow those collective bargaining agreement raises. And it was agreed to by the select board members here, the town administrator, that we did not want to have to follow that. Whatever language or whatever conversation happened at the beginning of her hire, it really makes no difference because the intent was to keep her with the collective bargaining agreement increase, right? You're looking to go down, cent for cent with her CBA increase. That's what it was. It was to match the CBA, which we originally wanted to make sure we didn't have to match. So it just, we make the recommendations, and I think the PQB does a great job with that. We've done that a lot in the past, sent written recommendations. I learned 2 years ago that you get the same result that Jim got by doing that. That's why I go before the board and speak, because we send memos, we send bulleted information. It never actually makes it to the public floor. So, it's difficult, and I know it'll put pressure on the PQB to have to go to these meetings and express that, but that's why I go, that's why I encourage everyone to go, because the information doesn't get filtered to the general public. You know, it's a great thing we're recorded now, at least our conversations are there, but, you know, it just, there definitely could have been some more transparency and
Yeah.
consideration for what the elected bodies did
Yeah.
for that, and
Well, yeah,
it
the
was,
amount of time
wasn't.
and effort and thought and expertise that
Yeah.
went into them coming up with a really thorough justification
Right.
that I think supported in the interest of the town, all the reasons legally why we shouldn't do it. And as he said, it was never even
Right.
brought up.
That's
So-
too bad.
The positive is it worked out.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
The negative is.
The negative is that just really, really set off a bad impression of how things
Yeah.
are run.
yeah, we shouldn't want that, right? We should entertain those, you know, suggestions and consultations with the other elected committees, because we were elected for committees that we, you know, chose to be on and chose to help out with. So, just as a conversation point, you know, it's a takeaway for you, Jim. It's not towards you, it's kind of towards the board and the town administrator, but,
Absolutely.
you know, it's definitely frustrating from an outside committee standpoint. Now, it's not as frustrating for us because, you know, John echoed and he agreed in our meeting and he agreed at the select board with what we had all discussed, so it worked out for us. But, you know, the PQB is a very professional, qualified group, and there's definitely been some times, especially recently, where they've been slighted on things that just should work together a little more, you know?
Exactly.
It's not that hard to make a phone call.
Yeah, like I said, I read his letter and I understand, and well, we responded accordingly. Charlie wrote a good response to it, and you learn. I mean, we live and learn and everything.
Yeah.
We're all just volunteers.
Yep.
Trying to do
So,
the right thing.
That's right.
I am good. I don't think we have any other business, any unknown business, unforeseen.
Still waiting to see that printing press.
Do you have a meeting October 6th? Oh, I'm sorry, November 6th?
November
Yeah,
7th.
do you have a meeting
I got-
October 6th and
I
28th?
got everything written down in my other.
Okay.
Yeah, October 6th, maybe.
I would just, I'm good scheduling for 2 weeks if everyone else is on the Monday.
When does the time change?
November
The time change?
November 5th.
November
Oh, yeah.
6th is a Monday.
No, I'm talking about the time change.
Oh.
The
Yeah,
time
yeah,
change
yeah.
already.
Is it the 5th?
Sunday.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
I
Sunday.
had to miss
Yeah.
tonight's holiday.
Oh, I got you.
So with the time change, I won't have to miss it.
No, it's fine.
Yeah, I have all the
Work-life
times
balance.
Okay.
written down.
So why don't we do November 6th at 5:30 again? And then if we need to make a change
Yeah,
or
we're
what-
definitely meeting on the 7th, I know that.
Yeah,
It's
So,
like,
So let's do the 6th, 5:30, this room. Just another small note just related to scheduling. So the Conservation Commission and us, we sort of double booked. Part of their reasoning for wanting to use this room, you may not be aware, but they booked basically the same time we did. They wanted to use this room because of, with everything that's going on with the recording. I did call the Conservation Commission. I spoke to them just about the fact that we like this room because we can record by the click of a button. We can't downstairs. You know, the break room isn't really, we like our room. You know, we like having the meeting here, we can record it. So they did adjust accordingly.
So what, are they not recorded downstairs unless someone comes in?
Unless someone
Recorded?
comes
Is that
in.
I believe the equipment has to be updated in that room.
Right.
Oh.
So for instance, if there was equipment in there where it's push button record,
Yeah,
I would have gladly switched, but
okay.
the system here works well, the way everything is, so that's why we,
So they're working to get that functionality downstairs? Because I went to watch some of the other meetings that are going on down there.
I believe it is, but I'm not,
yeah.
Charlie can answer that, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think they're moving in that direction.
All right, with that, so we have November 6th at 5:30 here, next meeting. With that, I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
One second.
All in favor?
Hi.